Hey, hey, hey. Welcome back, everybody. Call me Fat Albert at your own risk.
Hey, it's Fat Albert.
It's good to be back here once again on a lovely Thursday.
Yes.
We got MMA back in our lives, Dominic, and that means you guys get the Joes back in your lives, which I'm sure you guys were all missing us so much as we were off for about a week, give or take a couple days, because your boys proudly wear on our sleeves that we've never taken 7 straight days off. Dominic, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. We're back. Fights are back. This is kicking off, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I was looking at the upcoming events starting this weekend. 12 straight weekends of UFC fights, not including PFL starting back up in July. One championship that we're going to talk about today. Bellator's coming back this month in June. There's a lot going on these next few weeks. But this week, the UFC takes the cake. They're back in action at the Apex. I'm excited now. Also, for those of you that are tuning in, we did upload a video on Wednesday. If you guys didn't know, because we haven't had one of those in quite some time, had great discussions per usual. Check that out if you haven't. But Noah, we get to break down fights today.
We do, and it's all UFC. Do we have one?
No, I meant like we're talking about one in the fight announcements.
Oh, you're right. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I saw the fear on your face.
Well, there is a one event this weekend.
True.
158 is this weekend. There is a lot of MMA on it, headlined by, I believe, I can't remember if it's a kickboxing bout, but I'll probably still try to check it out. Andrade is on that card. Fabricio Andrade, who had a really good showing back in one of the first shows that we looked at for one. So I'll be interested to see how he does. A lot of MMA on there, so definitely worth checking out, but no fights to break down. We might have something to recap, however, so just want to make it clear, UFC Apex 56, I'm changing it. It's so, I mean, it's kind of dumb for me to even say this now because Ariel's been the one that's been kind of tooting his horn. I'm not trying to swagger jack here, but can we just acknowledge how dumb it is to call it UFC Vegas 56?
Well, they always usually say the city names.
But it's not but they've been to Vegas a lot more times than 56.
Well, that is true. That's true.
And UFC Apex sounds pretty cool.
UFC Apex 56 does sound better. That's true.
Can I get you to say a negative word about the UFC for once? Are you on the UFC's payroll? Yes or no?
No.
I'm just kidding, Dom. I love you. But all UFC today, and it starts, before we get into it, though, we do have to talk about the social medias.
Of course.
I've done enough talking. I've done enough shitting on Dom for one day. So I'm going to let Dom...
We just started.
So I'm going to let Dom talk about our social medias and where you can find us.
Of course. So obviously, if you're looking at us right now, you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, turn that notification bell on. If you're listening on audio platforms, give us a follow, give us a rating if you can on your platform of choice. Social media, if you look above my head, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at BAJ_MMA podcast. You can find me at DSlee14, and you can find Noah at NTBaker_.
Please go support us on TikTok. That's the new venture right now. I'm sure most of you probably, if you've been listening for more than just this episode, have probably hopefully followed us on Twitter and Instagram, but the TikTok is the new one. That's the one that Dominic is really taking control of. I mean, he kind of, a little behind the curtains, he sort of is the head man of all of our social media. But, I'm trying to make up for dissing him about being on UFC's payroll.
Right.
But it would be nice if you guys could go follow us on TikTok. TikTok is a great, I didn't realize just how great it could be for just getting your content out to more people and trying to connect with more people. But it'd be nice to kind of build a follower base on there and make that just another one of our great social media platforms, right? So
that's right.
Make sure to check those out. And with that, Dominic, I'm ready to just hop right in. What about you?
Let's do it.
All right, our main event, UFC Apex 56. we'll see two middling heavyweights go head-to-head. Alexander Volkov, ranked number 7. He does come in here minus 150 favorite. Taking on number 8 right behind him, Jairzinho Biggie Boy Rozenstruik at plus 130. Dominic, I especially have been admittedly a bit meh on this main event. Mm-hmm. I've sort of used it as an example of what UFC main events shouldn't be.
Yep.
I did that on our first rebranded edition of Verbal Sparring, which we released yesterday. Go check that out. But I'm curious from your perspective, as someone who tends to just be a little bit more positive than me in general, what is kind of your way to spin this? Like, what is the story for you as we head into Saturday in the Apex?
Yeah, that is a good question because, like we said on Wednesday's show, again, check it out, by the way, great discussions. Anyways, shameless plugging aside, the storylines is what we look for in main events, and it is a little bit hard to find in one like this, and it's simply because we've seen these guys being, I saw actually, it was a stat, since 2017, Alexander Volkov is tied for 3rd for most headlining events in the UFC in that time period. This will be his 7th.
That's ridiculous.
Yes, this will be his 7th main event since 2017. Dustin Poirier was in the lead with 9 since 2017. So, again,
Anthony
he's
Smith, second on there.
He's got to be close, right? Damn it! I wish I would have dug deeper and looked for his name. Got to be close. But so that just kind of tells you he's been in this spot so much, and while he's won a couple, he's lost a few. He's never been able to put it all together in the UFC. And for Biggie Boy Rozenstruik, it's much of the same. Less experience, but only ever so slightly. These are two, for what it's worth, these are two of the most active heavyweights in the UFC. So credit to him for that. But yeah, just, main event aside, 5 rounds aside, it's a guy in Volkov that's never been able to reach that cusp, but I believe has the skill set to at least challenge for a title, maybe not be a champion, but to challenge for it. But he's never been able to put it all together. Rozenstruik, we've seen a little less of him. He has a little bit less of the complete skill set on paper anyway. He's just kind of known as that power threat, but he's lost the biggest fights when it's mattered the most as well. So really it's like now you're fighting each other one-on-one. Somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to bump up ahead of the other guy and kind of separate themselves from that back half 10 through 15, I guess, if you're looking for a storyline. But that feels like I'm really fishing,
Well, it is a bit of survive in advance, and it's these guys, 2 guys are middling out here, like you said. There's a lot at stake here in terms of, I guess, relevancy, like remaining relevant in this heavyweight division, because that is a great stat you threw out there about Volkov being in so many headlining spots. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And then when you look at Rozenstruik, just in the last couple of years, he headlined with Cyril Gane. He headlined with Augusto Sakai.
Yep.
He was in a very high-profile bout with Ngannou. Yes, I know that didn't particularly
go well.
But he headlined with Alistair Overeem, which was a huge moment for him.
True.
ESPN even. Yep. So you've seen Rozenstruik, even though we've seen less of him, it feels like he's been mostly in high-profile bouts.
Yeah.
Alexander Volkov, you can mostly say the same because he came from pretty good background. He was a former Bellator heavyweight champion, so he's kind of like, we didn't really look at him like it, but he was a bit like a Michael Chandler coming over, like a guy who had that championship pedigree, looking to fill out your roster a little bit more. And really, when you really go through these guys' 2 resumes, I think, especially for Volkov, for me, I always assume it's worse than it actually is. Like, his losses in the UFC have been to Derek Lewis, which we all know was an amazing moment. It's kind of what made Derek Lewis a star in the company. But admittedly, it was probably the biggest comeback in UFC history because Volkov dominated, completely controlled that fight for 2 rounds and then 4 minutes and 50 seconds of the 3rd round. Yeah. And Lewis just landed a monstrous right hand that Volkov didn't see coming. Fight over. That's it. Yeah. After that, he did lose in a main event to Curtis Blades. I don't really remember. That fight I just remember being kind of dull. I remember he just really struggled with the wrestling of Curtis Blades. It's a constant battle that you have to do if you're fighting Blades.
Yeah.
And then he lost to Tom Aspinall most recently in a main event where he got completely ran through. I think even surprised me how easy Tom Aspinall made that look when even though I kind of expected Aspinall to win, I even bet on him to win. To do it that easy was a little bit surprising to me. I think I even had the over on the rounds for that fight, so definitely a shock to me. And then there's a fourth loss I'm missing in there.
I know. I'm blanking on that too.
I literally was just watching.
I'm trying to, because he's fought everybody. So his most recent win was against Tybura. He beat. We talk about the Greg Hardy fight frequently. He beat Overeem. Looked great in that fight against Overeem.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Who is this fourth guy? I'm gonna try and hunt it down.
Well, as you do that, I'm just gonna say that basically I was only able to name 3 losses right there, right? I'm sure the fourth loss is gonna be something that does matter and is significant, but all in all, Volkov still has, he still has the makings to be a good heavyweight.
I agree.
Do I necessarily think that he's maybe? Do I think his ceiling is really to fight for a title? I don't know. I'm just not sure, Dominic, if he's been able to flesh out that skill set enough. I mean, he's a very good striker, but it feels like there's just too many bad matchups for him by the existing crop of heavyweights, and I don't think he's going to be able to outlive or remain at a high-level fighter longer than a lot of these guys. I mean, he's bad matchups, Curtis Blades for one, but then you got I wouldn't call Ngannou a good matchup for him. I wouldn't call someone like Cyril Gane.
That was the fourth loss.
Yeah,
it was that 5 rounder.
As I said it. Yeah, which was a good fight actually, but Cyril Gane just a step ahead the whole time, kind of thing. So when it comes here, so that's kind of my feelings on Volkov. But then for Biggie Boy, man, I think that people underestimate his striking. I even think the way you presented his striking might have underestimated a little bit. You were kind of calling him the power puncher, which of the two is definitely the accurate assessment. But I actually think his kickboxing is very underrated. Unfortunately, though, he just doesn't tend to win a lot of these kickboxing contests that he puts himself into. I think I did see a lot of people kind of at his expense making fun of him, saying like the face of the guy who's about to have the slowest paced kickboxing bout in history. It is what it is. He is who he is at this point. That's really what both these guys are. I don't expect a lot of evolution here, but I will be curious to see. You got 2 guys that are going to want to mostly stand and strike.
Oh yeah.
So it's either someone's going to get the better of that right away, and we're going to clearly know who's probably going to win this fight, or someone's going to be willing to add a new wrinkle here and maybe try to play the levels game. Could be an interesting element to throw in. I'm not saying I would put money on that to happen. I'm just saying that if these 2 guys want to really, truly survive and advance, they need to look beyond this fight and realize that their skill set is just too limited to compete with the very best of the division.
Yeah, you have to realize it now before it's too late, because if you're going to, add these things to your game, it has to start right here, because if it doesn't, you're just going to fall behind. We're seeing kind of this next wave of heavyweights. Not that there's a ton crashing in, but there are a few that can just get these guys right out, so they have to.
It might be too late even, Dom. I mean, these 2 guys are not. They're not old, but they're very established in who they are. They're in their prime.
Right.
It might be too late, but I find that hard to believe. I mean, look at what we saw from Francis Ngannou against Cyril Gane. I understand that he probably had some of those capabilities, and we just didn't realize it for years when it came to his wrestling and how he executed that against Gane. But I firmly believe that a lot of that was developed in a short amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
It's not crazy when you have 2 guys like this who are both very strongly concerned with the other striking and very much focused on bettering their striking. It may not hurt to offer a level change, to just go for it. And I know there's a lot of, there's a lot of talk about the scoring criteria and how we, do that. So these guys do got to keep that in mind. The damage is really what trumps all right now.
Yeah.
And even getting that takedown, you got to be able to effectively ground and pound. And, it just, I don't know. I'm not saying that's how the fight's going to go, but I'm saying that's probably how it should. One of these guys should do that, but I don't know if that's really what's going to happen.
Yeah, time will tell.
In your eyes, Dom, does this fight go to distance, or is it get stopped before?
See, well, when I'm doing like notes for our betting and stuff, that's at the end of the episode. That's a thought that crossed my head. Like, what is going to happen here? Because it is a kickboxing match on paper. At the end of the day, Volkov is very good at utilizing his reach. He's 6'7". He's bigger than basically everybody in this division with his legs and arms, and he does use it good, which is nice. And Jairzinho has in his 5-rounders been less, gung ho. I mean, he was losing that fight with Overeem until he knocked him out the last 10 seconds. The biggest less active. And what helped him though when he beat Sakai, that's the biggie boy that put it all together. That I saw the most potential in was that fight right there against Sakai. So if that could be a repeat performance, again, we've talked about his power, and he does have more power than Volkov. I could see it being stopped early, but right now I am leaning more toward that 5-rounder.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Jairzinho has the power to put away Volkov.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not very confident that Volkov can put away Rozenstruik.
Right.
Fair.
Oh, absolutely.
More on this card to come, but we do have some tidbits to talk about. Even though we took a week off, Dom, not a ton going on right now. I mean, truthfully, I kind of told Dom off recording, might be the dullest period, the dullest month in our show's short history. It's just been, it's just one of those dead. It feels like it's a calm before the storm, though. Like I feel like
we're
really going to be getting, we're hitting summer.
Yeah.
I feel like some big stuff's on the horizon. Something's got to give with Nate Diaz. Something's got to give with Dustin Poirier. Yeah. You got Conor McGregor potentially coming back by the end of the year, maybe. I don't know. Is he into USADA pool? Who knows? Just a lot going on. But none of that's going to be talked about here except, well, I did mention Conor, and we will talk about him right now. So some things we missed, but this one is hot off the presses, Dom. It's
burning.
Speak,
yes.
It's coming about. So there's been a lot of Twitter beef over the last few days between two of the UFC's biggest stars, Conor McGregor and Jorge Masvidal. And correct me if I'm wrong, but even though this was a match speculated for years, really since Jorge had his meteoric rise, and it's been kind of a speculated bout, is this really the first time that these two have really been publicly beefing like this? I don't know if I've seen this before now.
That I can recall, it does seem that way. In terms of actually calling one another out, adding each other, if you will, if that's what the young kids still say these days. I think this is the first time we've seen it.
Yeah, Dom, you crack me up. So we have some tweets here. I have some tweets, and Dominic has a statement from Jorge. Jorge sent it to Dom himself, and asked for Dom to read it on the show on his behalf.
This is true.
Because Dominic's on the UFC's payroll, like I said.
Right.
We're going to start with the Twitter exchange. I don't know the context for Conor's tweet. But
there's never much context to Conor.
Because Conor, of course, has deleted all evidence of this. So I'm going off of pictures here, but this was in response to something relating to Jorge Masvidal, because this was directed at Jorge. Conor said, "An absolute pigeon brain this guy is. Stupid beyond belief." Should I have done that in an Irish accent? I feel like I should have, but
missed opportunity.
Yeah, next time. Jorge responded with that and said, "This pea brain," which Conor called him a pigeon brain, so not the exact same thing, but tomato, I guess.
Right, of course.
"This pea brain is the biggest fight of your life. So you're either too scared or too stupid to get this check." I would say a pretty solid comeback.
That is a good comeback.
And then Jorge has continued into, as we're recording this, we're recording on Wednesday.
Yep.
And, of course, on Wednesdays, we get the lovely MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. Literally just a couple hours before we recorded, he had Jorge Masvidal on his show. So, of course, this was asked about. And Dominic, do you want to give the quote that Jorge said on the show?
Yes, so via the MMA Hour from Jorge, quote, "He is not going to fight. The UFC has offered him this fight. It's not going to be good for the Conor brand or his cheap-ass whiskey to lose to me. So that little bitch has to do what he has to do and just take to Twitter and talk shit. Dana White called it a long-ass time ago. I'm too much man for him, too much size, as Dana says, and it stuck with him. But at the same time, he can't do nothing about it because he knows it's true." That's quite the soundbite there.
It's definitely some strong words from a strong man in Jorge Masvidal.
Yes.
Now, he has obviously some of his own problems going on with the, I guess, ongoing Colby Covington.
Yeah, legal troubles.
That legal dispute that's ongoing. But let's talk about this a little bit. So, I guess where we can kind of start is maybe we are, of course, as this show is a weekly show and we do this twice a week usually, it can kind of become victim to itself in a way where, like, I've noticed just from the past, like in the past 6 months, I think we've had clips of us saying that the fight to make was Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, and then also saying the fight to make was Jorge Masvidal versus Conor McGregor. It's fun, right? It's just a way to.
That's how quick the game moves.
That's how quick it moves. It is. You're true. I think I'm not saying it's a bad thing that we do.
Right.
It's funny. It's just a way it goes. Now, with that being said, Dom, did these exchanges put this fight back into focus for you, or are you still kind of thinking that this fight's really not in the cards, in your opinion?
I mean, you'd like to say so, just because it is two of the biggest names, or it's the two biggest names in the UFC current day right now, and they're at similar parts of their careers. Whether you're a Conor fan or a Jorge fan, no matter how you want to slice it up and look at it, it's true. They're on skids. They're losing to the top tier guys, but these two have never fought each other. They're two of the biggest stars ever in this sport's history, in the UFC's history. Now is still a better time than never to do it, right? I mean, Conor's always going to have big fights in front of him because everybody wants to fight Conor. Jorge is always going to have big fights until he retires, but obviously not to the magnitude of a Conor. Not as many people calling for Jorge. But I think that this fight would still make sense. You would think it's something the UFC would want to do. I think it's interesting Jorge said the UFC offered him this fight. I would be curious to see how much truth there is actually to that. But if that is the case, if the UFC is wanting to make it, after all that stuff that Dana has said, we've talked about it on here probably, where he said Conor's too small. Maybe it is. If you're not going to do it, let's just push it to the wayside and be done with it. Let's not keep bringing it up. Let's not keep having rumors about it. And as Noah said, this is the first time we've seen them acknowledge each other. Maybe it's closer on the horizon than what we think.
Out of all the matchups that we've speculated for Conor McGregor, is this the biggest pay-per-view buy rate that he can get with Jorge Masvidal?
Ooh.
Realistic opportunity.
Is it
obviously a Khabib rematch would probably be the biggest, but that's not realistic, right?
Man, well, I mean, there's two clear options in my head. It's this or it's the trilogy with Nate, right? You hear that plane above?
Yeah, there's a plane.
The plane. I'm
glad that you caught that, but those are the two clear options. It really is. And
which one would do bigger pay-per-views, Noah?
Well, so I'm going to stand firm on this one. Again, we'll see if you follow suit, but I'm going with the trilogy between him and Diaz.
Yeah.
And I think my answer would have been flipped maybe 6-8 months ago.
Yeah.
But I think that Masvidal's, as big as his rise is and as big of a star as he still is, it's not the same that it was. We remember that lead up to Fight Island and him versus Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
He was
he was on fire.
He was as close as you can get to I guess he really wasn't the global of Conor, but in terms of like a hardcore fan, how we viewed a product, he was as close as you can get to like that Conor Ronda level, right? He's fallen off quite far, I think, since then. I think the fight with Colby didn't do him any favors because, of course, he lost and didn't put up the greatest of fights.
And the aftermath.
Some people seem to really like that fight. I wasn't really. I didn't think it was that great, but
Okay.
the aftermath, I think, has made him look even worse. Yes, I know, like how people feel about Colby and if he deserved it, whatever. It's irrelevant. Kind of a punk thing to do, right? You don't do that. So,
but Nate's Nate, man. You know what I mean?
I just think that Nate trilogy is always just, and I think that's lost some steam. Like I think if we did that by the end of 2016 or 2017, instead of doing the Mayweather fight, that's probably doing more than him and Habib did.
Very much so.
Very
close.
That was a bit of a hot take. That was
very close.
No, you don't want to jump on that ship with me quite. I don't know if you want to jump on that ship.
I was like, hand touch the stove. You know?
Yeah, I was like, damn, that was kind of hot. But
Yeah.
I'm serious. I think that there's some I think to say 2 million buys, I think
it does 2 million.
Question.
Yeah.
Now you probably get like around what him and Dustin's rematch did, I would say.
Yeah. Was that like 1.3?
1.3, 1.4.
Yeah, which, that's a good payday.
Oh, that's great. I mean,
well, here's the thing, too, though. Like, right now, what's the hottest thing going for Nate? It is this mystery of who he's going to fight next. What's the UFC doing? Why is it taking so long? He's tweeting daily at this point about why he's not getting a fight. So people are just clamoring at the bit. If the UFC goes, mic drop, and they say it's him and Conor, I mean, dude, that'd be big. That would be bigger than him and Jorge.
It is kind of funny that, like, our last episode, or maybe it was the one before that, we talked about how Conor's apparently not even in the USADA testing pool.
Right.
And how we were like, we shouldn't even speculate on Conor anymore.
He finds a way, man.
Conor finds a way. And, I mean, honestly, they did it for Brock. They'll do it for Conor. Come on, people. Like, come on.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If they did McGregor Masvidal, I'd be on board. I'd be on board, man. I mean, it's a big fight. It feels more competitive now, too, I think. Like, Conor has dropped off a little bit for sure. And Masvidal's dropped off a little bit for sure. If you're just going off the last couple of years, I guess. Theoretically, Masvidal being the much larger, powerful, stronger guy, the more natural welterweight, probably should be able to win that fight. But it's just such an interesting matchup at this point because both guys aren't at 100% anymore, in my opinion. And both have had their losses kind of stacking up now. And, is it the best fight for a returning, coming off of a long injury, Conor McGregor? I don't know. I don't know if there's a perfect option for that. A lot of people might throw out Tony Ferguson. Michael Chandler is still, he's a more competitive. If you're talking about if you really want to throw Conor back in the fire, Michael Chandler's there.
It really does still feel like he might never fight at 155 again, though.
We've been talking about that a little bit. I remember we had someone comment on one of our episodes speculating as such.
He's big right now, man.
He's huge. He's huge. Now, we've seen crazier things. I mean, Conor, remember how he used to make featherweight? I mean,
True.
He's done some crazy things when it came to weight cutting. But, yeah, I mean, part of me thinks that once... I don't really know how many fights we have left with Conor. Just
for both?
Well, right. And I feel like we have more with Masvidal, truthfully. And Masvidal's 38,
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, I really don't... I mean, a lot of it depends on the wins and losses. But if Conor loses his next fight, I mean...
Yeah. Yeah, that's
his
true,
return fight, if he's fighting like a Tony Ferguson and he loses, I mean...
Oh.
Yes, you still have big fights, but... I mean, eventually, even the casual fans aren't tuning in anymore, right?
Yeah. You got to feel like the perfect thing for Conor would be to fight Jorge, fight Nate, and then maybe you get lucky and get a welterweight title shot in there and kind of ride off into the sunset,
Yeah.
But like,
I
if
still
he
don't think
those
it's
two
out of the
fights,
question. I still don't think it's out of the question for him to come back and fight Usman. I don't think that's out of the question.
Oh,
Or
Jesus.
Leon Edwards, depending on who's the champion.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we'll leave it there, I guess. But the next one here, Dominic, Nick Diaz has spoken.
This one was interesting.
Nick Diaz said that he is eyeing a return this year to the UFC 2022.
Yeah.
And he wants that fight to be for the welterweight title with Kamaru Usman. Your thoughts?
Aren't the Diaz brothers just two peas in a pod, man? I mean,
They are brothers.
I mean, hey, Nick, Nate, they're going to say what's on the brain. And if it's a title shot with Kamaru, the pound-for-pound best in the world right now, then so be it. That's what they're going to come out and say. Listen, we all know that this obviously isn't going to happen. But I think it's worth noting that Nick does want to fight again. Like, I hope he genuinely wants to fight again. You know what I mean? That's
here's my only response to that. I kind of agree with you. Like, when I first read this, I was like, oh, okay. At least he's showing a legitimate interest. Like, this is him talking.
Yeah.
This isn't a coach, a manager, his brother. This isn't a friend. This isn't Jake Shields. This is
right.
Nick Diaz.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go through what we went through for UFC 266 again.
Yeah, same.
Look, it was a decent fight. Him and Robbie Lawler, the rematch. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But we did not get – I don't know what was going on with Nick Diaz. We may never know. But something wasn't right.
Not at all.
Something wasn't right. And I don't think it was – look, the weight class moved in like the 48 hours before the fight, went from 170 to 185.
The physique change that he had within weeks.
Yes, because just a few months prior, the guy looked shredded.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's looking a little dad bod-ish.
Yeah.
Not that I'm the judge, anybody on that, but I'm just saying that something seemed mentally off as well as physically off. And, he got hit with a real good punch that probably broke his nose, and he kind of just, I don't want to say quit, because, it's Nick Diaz.
Well, and you look at the soundbite after the fact, too, with him and Robbie, that conversation.
Yeah. Robbie could sense it. Everybody can sense it. Something just didn't seem right.
Yeah.
And what he's said since then doesn't... I get the sense that Nick Diaz, the only reason that he came back to fight was, either because he needed the money or someone on his circle needed the money. Yeah. And he was kind of doing it out of some sort of... almost like he felt like he had to. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't like that. That doesn't make me feel good. That's the dark side of the sport that, we have to acknowledge, but we don't like to celebrate. You don't like to celebrate that. So I'm taking this with a grain of salt, because what kind of matchups could he even get in a return fight, Dom? Let's say they offered him Matt Brown. Okay, I'd watch that. I think that's a good fight. Yep. Matt Brown, solid still, but a guy who's obviously past his prime, right? Yep. I don't think Nick Diaz takes that fight. I don't think that he's interested in fighting. I didn't think part of it could, if they explained all of that, all the shenanigans as being that he just really wasn't motivated to fight Robbie Lawler because he just was like, oh, I beat him before, which is kind of crazy because it was 20 years. But still, I would actually kind of buy it, because I just think that he legitimately, he even said that fight week he felt like he should be fighting for the title, which is, again, it's kind of crazy. Yeah. But again, it's when you are a fighter of his caliber, that's the kind of mentality you have to have, I guess, to be at that level. I just don't think there's a realistic matchup that he's going to be on board with, and that I don't want it to be him taking a Matt Brown fight and being in the kind of condition he was in against Robbie Lawler. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Any thoughts on John McCarthy kind of standing behind him, saying that...
I did see that little...
So I read the quote, and then I'm like, okay, this feels a bit fishy. This quote
clickbait, kind of. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, MMA junkie. I'm like, what are you doing here? Are you doing some fake news? Well, no, not really. But when you watch the clip, it's not really as...
what that big quote says,
Yeah, I don't know. It's not really wrong. It's just not... It wasn't really the focus of what McCarthy's whole point was. But basically what he said was that he would not mind watching a hypothetical Nick Diaz versus Kamaru Usman fight at welterweight.
Wow.
He said that Usman would likely. The wording was that like Usman would probably try to stand with Diaz, but then after getting. I don't want to mix up my wording. Yeah, getting pieced up by Nick, Usman would probably bring in his wrestling. I think that this is a bad take by John McCarthy, obviously, but like it's his opinion, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think his opinion is based off a version of Nick Diaz that's just not there anymore.
Yeah, I mean there should be like little to zero interest in a fight like that happening. Like
if you could convince me that the Nick Diaz that fought even like Anderson Silva in his last fight, if you wanted to convince me that like he would give Usman problems on the feet, I'd probably believe it. Because Usman, for what it's worth, he's obviously improved greatly on his striking, and he's got a lot of power too to back it up. But it's still not his bread and butter. It's still not his strength to his game. But the Nick Diaz that we saw at UFC 266 is the version I kind of have to go off of, and
yeah, of course.
I just don't agree with the take. It's just,
not just listen. The fight's never going to happen, so I don't.
It's a non-story.
But again, will we see Nick this year? I think that's the bigger question to come out of it. And honestly, like maybe he does want to fight. Maybe he's just saying this because he knows this fight obviously won't happen, but he just wants to kind of get out there and say hi to everyone. Mm-hmm. I don't know. We'll see.
Post piss break, we have one more here.
Yes.
Lastly, Deiveson Figueiredo spoke with Brazilian outlet AG
Fight.
I couldn't remember if it was Fight or News, so thank you. AG Fight. And he had a lot of thoughts, Dominic, about the recently announced interim flyweight title fight between Brandon Moreno and Kai Kara-France, and most of them were not very positive. I think the wording was how shocked he was and disappointed he was with this announcement, feeling that he is being undervalued as a champion. Now, he does admittedly have an injury to both of his hands that have apparently will be keeping him out till the end of the year. So, Dominic, I want to get your quick thoughts right away. Do you agree with the viewpoint of this could be undervaluing your champion by putting this interim title fight in place and take into account the timetable of the return, all that?
Yeah, I can see, the disappointment here from Deiveson's side. This is a guy that has been in fun fights a lot. He's had little small controversies, but never anything too crazy. Obviously, the trilogy that he's had thus far with Brandon Moreno has been next level, so much so we want a quadrilogy between those two, the first one that would ever happen. Obviously, it's not going to happen right now. The interim title fight between Kai Kara-France and Brandon Moreno happening at the end of July. So I see his viewpoint, man. It's got to be frustrating to go through that trilogy, 3 grueling fights. Really, all 3 of them. And, to come out like that, and now you get your belt, not stripped, but in a sense, he's got to feel like he is stripped to a certain degree, and he really is contemplating this move to bantamweight. Would he really leave this division with unfinished business? I'd like to say no, but you and I have talked time and time again about how 135 does feel inevitable for him. Maybe after a few kind of meetings, business meetings for him, maybe he decides to hang it up at 125. I personally don't think he'll do it, though. Hopefully not.
So you think he'll stay at 125 at least to see out?
I think he'll get the winner.
Reign and yeah. So I guess that's the important thing to also note is that he also went on to say he's considering making some big moves, big changes. Biggest one being that he's considering leaving the division. And that's something that we've all kind of speculated that he would do. He's been cutting a lot of weight. Mm-hmm. Like I think it's a quarter of his body weight to get down to 125. We thought there was a chance if he didn't win the trilogy, if he didn't win that third fight with Moreno, I think there's a chance that he already makes that move. But kind of unforeseeably to a lot of us, due to how the second fight went, he ends up getting the nod and looked great in that fight. So now it's like, okay, well, we're going to see how long this run goes. So do I take him? I think he is speaking very much in the moment, like he's just very angry in the moment. I think cooler heads will prevail. I don't think he'll leave the division without getting some sort of resolution. I mean, the biggest fight for him is going to be either if Moreno wins, doing that quadrilogy, or just having Kaikar France in the interim role.
Right.
That's the biggest fight for him. He gets the pay-per-view points and the pay for being a champion. It's the biggest fight for him to do. But do I think win or lose in that fight, I could see him calling it and being like, I'm going up.
Yeah.
Which would be unfortunate a little bit. You don't want to see a standing champion just kind of willingly give up the title. And Dana has not been a big fan of when champions have done that in the past. Most have done it when they've retired, like Cejudo, GSP. You don't usually see it for guys who are remaining active.
Right.
So that would be interesting. But I think cooler heads will prevail. I think we'll still get the fights that we're hoping to get. Hopefully the timetable holds true. I'm not gonna speak too much on the undervalued part, because you guys know I'm gonna side with him completely because I don't like interim titles.
Yeah.
But admittedly, we don't really know the timetable for his return. Everybody keeps saying that it's end of the year. How legit is that? When do we actually see him back? Is it going to be well over a year? If that's the case, then there might be more stake to this interim title, than I believed when it was announced.
Right.
So that's it for things we missed. But Dominic, we do have a lot of fight announcements. That's kind of the big thing that's built up over this time off.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the main event we've spoken about in great length already.
Yeah.
Arman Tsarukyan versus Matuesz Gamrot has officially elevated to the main event of the June 25th card. A lot of controversy with this one.
Yeah.
You got our great representative of the sport, Shaquille Majori, asking the question, is it the worst main event in UFC history? You got a lot of people shitting on Shaquille for asking the question. Then you got us in the middle that are like, well, we think it was the wrong question to ask, but we still like Shaquille.
Yeah.
We think it's a great fight, great main event. All in all, your thoughts right now on the fight, and maybe does it feel like you were the one that kind of had the pulse on this being like a hot button topic? I didn't even see any of the controversy. So does it feel like the air is cleared on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think so, right? We've had a few days to let that comment simmer, and at the end of the day, all it comes down to is how we feel about this fight. And you and I, we love everything about this fight, and we're so happy that this is the main event. We want more of these types of fights. If you want to see the whole 15-minute discussion, just look at yesterday's episode. I'm going to keep mentioning that because it was so good. But, yeah, I love everything about it. It has seemed to simmer down a little bit. I haven't seen too much taken over the timeline. And a lot of people, again, were kind of siding with us. And it's not that Shaquille, he loves the fight. He loves that it's a great fight. He was just the name value thing, right? That's what it came down to. And that was the whole hot topic, the discussion that we had. That's what brought it up. That's what posed that 15-minute long discussion that we had. But yes, we love this fight. I love this fight. 11 versus 12, the future of the lightweight division. Who's going to take the next step? That's what this fight is.
Yeah. Next up, officially announced as the main event on July 16th.
Oh, yeah.
In
Long Island.
I almost said Fight Island. In Long Island, New York, Brian Ortega taking on Yair Rodriguez. Both guys coming off of losses, an absolute fight of the year contenders.
Yep.
Both are championship level fighters in this featherweight division. Unfortunately, the division that's ruled by, for them anyways, ruled by Volkanovski and Max Holloway, who are just two of the best fighters ever.
Yeah.
So Dominic, your thoughts on this main event? Is it a worthy main event in our criteria that we've been throwing out there for main events? And your thoughts on this being in Long Island?
Yeah, so a couple questions here. I'm actually going to add a third layer, Noah. This is the third UFC on ABC card that they're going to be headlining here.
Point, yeah.
So yeah, all 3 boxes are checked, I guess. I mean, am I a little, upset that Long Island's getting one and Ohio's not getting a second one? I mean,
couldn't have sprinkled it in Cincinnati.
A little closer to the Midwest even. Yeah, I don't know, guys. Anyways, this fight's awesome. This has been the one that we've kind of been anticipating for months now, essentially. I mean, Rodriguez fought in November, Ortega fought in September against Volk, so they've been out for a little while. They needed it. It was wars, but now they're back in July, 5 rounds. I think it's an awesome fight, man. These two are just so good. But are they good enough? Will we ever see them reach that title that they want so bad? But I think this is going to be a barn burner of a fight, man. I don't see how this fight's boring.
Ortega took all that time off against Max Holloway after all that damage, and look at how he did against the Korean Zombie.
Yeah.
Here he is. He coming off the heels of another title performance loss, one where he got shelled for a lot of that fight. Coming up against Yair Rodriguez. This fight is beautiful. It's a fantastic fight. I part of me also has this like bad taste in my mouth with this fight because whoever loses, I'm just very concerned with what the future holds for them.
Yes.
Especially if Ortega takes a beating here, it's just like
not good.
It's just gonna worry me, but it's gonna have me on the edge of my seat. I'm gonna be so invested in this fight. It is an amazing fight. It's the fight to make in this division outside of the trilogy with Volkanovski, Holloway.
100%.
A little bit of one. It's like our really own, like our lone announcement story fight that we're talking about that's not UFC. One did have a fight announcement for July 22nd, a day before UFC goes back to the UK, back to London.
Oh, yeah, true.
So on July 22nd, it'll be Friday, probably Friday morning, because
at like 6 a.m.
They like to be the lone promotion that doesn't cater to the United States.
Yes,
so.
yeah, we respect it.
Yeah, Reinier de Ridder, who is the light heavyweight and middleweight champion for one, he'll be defending the light heavyweight title this time against Vitaly Bigdash, who actually won a trilogy bout with Ang Song at one of the last one events that we reviewed on here and talked about. So does this feel like, I mean, I know we don't know a ton about one's roster, like the deeper we go, but, based off of what you saw from Vitaly Bigdash's performance against Ang Song, does he feel like a proper guy to get put in this position fighting for a title?
Yeah, you would like to think so. Even though that fight with Bigdash and An Lasong wasn't as fun as I think a lot of people expected, that trilogy fight, the first two are just barn burners. It's two guys that are in fun fights. But he showed a smart approach to the fight, and he did what he had to do to win, right? Yeah. And that's what matters when it comes to earning these title fights sometimes, especially over there in one where maybe the rosters aren't as deep. There's not that top 15 ranking or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, you would like to think this is earned, and obviously De Ridder is one of the most elite talents in that organization, one of the most elite talents in the world right now in mixed martial arts. Can he add another feather to his cap against a seasoned veteran? That's the storyline.
I know. Vitaly Bigdash, this is probably his last chance. I believe he's 37 years old. Yeah. So going up against an absolute killer, the face of the entire show, Reinier de Ridder, it's going to be an uphill battle. He did show a lot of great periods of controlling Ang Lasong, who is a big guy himself. So it should be fun. I think it's nice that it's a name that we recognize. I'm kind of happy about that.
Yeah.
Just someone we've seen fight before for one, since we're such noobs to one. So that'll be nice. That's July 22nd. The next day, Dom.
Oh, this is on here.
London. Paddy, the baddie Pimblett, taking on Jordan Leavitt. My question, Dominic, is this Jordan Leavitt knocks out Paddy and then twerks. Is there going to be a riot?
That arena might burn to the ground if that happens, man. This is the battle of like the post-fight celebration. Jordan Leavitt's twerking, he's doing the splits. Paddy does some crazy fancy dances, rubs his belly because he knows he's about to go eat 8 cheeseburgers when he gets backstage. That guy. But honestly, I'm kind of here for this fight. I mean, I didn't expect. This is a step up for Paddy. It is not that like Jordan Leavitt's some amazing striker. He's not gonna. He can't compete tit for tat on the feet with Paddy. But he's a great grappler, great control time, very strong, very athletic, this isn't just some walk in the park for Paddy, which, to be fair, both fights he's had haven't necessarily been walks in the park once they've gotten into the cage. But this one, I think, on paper is the hardest one, and in the cage could also be the hardest challenge.
Yeah, at first, my first thought when this fight was announced was a little bit negative because I felt like the UFC was once again giving Paddy a guy and Jordan Leavitt, who not a great striker, more of that guy who's going to look to take a fight to the ground. So I thought they were kind of catering to Paddy a little bit since Paddy did get kind of shuttered on the shuttered's not the best word to use here. He got rocked on the feet in both fights, even if it was just a fleeting moment. But the more I've let it simmer, I actually really like this fight.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I think it's the proper step up because again, Paddy, they're great fights, but he's not dominating these guys that he's winning against. So Jordan Leavitt, a great step up. I'm very intrigued. How is the ground battle going to go? And actually, Dominic, I think if this fight stays standing, I think there's a chance Jordan Leavitt might be a lot more competitive than we think. Because again, I ain't seeing it with Paddy on the feet very much. Now, when this fight goes to the ground, I do tend to believe that Paddy's just an all-around better grappler. But again, there's just a lot unknown. Both guys very solid at what they're good at. Their holes are apparent, but both getting kind of a step up here. I'm here for it. I think it's going to be a great matchup.
Yes.
Great addition to this card. I'm all for it.
Yeah, these London cards this year, they are fucking loaded.
Yes.
I mean,
And the least surprising news story for this year and really any year, the just announced fight card for UFC 276, right? 277, July 30th?
Yeah.
July 30th. Had Paulo Costa versus Luke Rockhold on it. I literally said this fight will get moved or canceled.
Yeah.
It got moved. So now it's August 20th, apparently, that this fight is taking place. Dominic, I am telling you guys.
Tell them.
This fight is not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Don't ask me or if it does, there's going to be some tomfoolery.
Yes, exactly.
Paulo's going to come in at 250 pounds and not cut a damn pound of weight.
It's going to be a heavyweight fight.
Luke Rockhold, I mean, I don't even know what goes on with that guy sometimes.
Yeah.
All in all, this fight ain't going to happen. So I'm not even going to speculate on it. Dominic, your thoughts?
On to the next one.
September 3rd, UFC will be returning to
These are
Paris,
good ones.
And we do have our main event and another pretty big fight announced with it. Caitlin Chookagian taking on Manon Fior, a fight that was pretty speculated. Caitlin Chookagian coming off her last win against Amanda Hiba. She kind of called. She said, UFC just put me with the French woman.
Let's do it in Paris.
That was like the only person she couldn't name. I was like, ooh, okay. All right, Caitlin.
She's like fought everybody else in the rankings.
Yeah. So you have that fight, then our main event.
Well, for now. But there's a rumored fight that might happen on that card.
So not for sure the main event, which would be shocking. Because Robert Whittaker taking on Marvin Vettori is the fight that is being pegged for this card. What fight is being speculated?
Gone to Ivasa.
Oh yeah, that's already announced for this card.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
But the UFC hasn't. The UFC hasn't like officially did the graphic for it, you know.
Okay.
But yeah.
But holy shit! If both those fights stick to this card, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe not the main event, but can we please? I mean, Dominic, can we please get this 5 rounds? Should we speculate on this fight as if it's 5 rounds?
It should be. It needs to be 5 rounds.
I mean, it's a huge fight, and we know Robert coming off a second loss to Adesanya, very close fight.
Yeah,
he's looking to it's got to be tough, man. You got to have some mental fortitude to know that you're so you. It took him. He went through a gauntlet to get back into a title fight. So then for him to lose it again, and now he's back at peg 1, square 1. It feels like, and it's like, okay, you gotta go through the gauntlet again, and now it's Marvin Vettori, who's a tough matchup. Marvin Vettori also probably having some extra level of motivation. He's also lost twice to the champion.
Yeah.
coming off of a fantastic performance against Paulo Costa. Showed a lot of wrinkles to his game that I did not necessarily know were there. Not only was he doing very well in the striking, but the amount of punishment he was able to take from a bloated Paulo Costa was something to behold. It's a beautiful fight, but do you want to talk a little bit about Chookagian and Manon Fiorot?
Well, let's just say if Manon comes in there and wins on home soil in Paris, she's had great performances thus far in the UFC. The one in Columbus that we got to see was kind of the most lackluster, but she showed evolutions and different portions of her game that we hadn't seen.
We got to see her taken further, yes.
Right.
The
use some grappling and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that was like the performance that you just need to see from a prospect that's coming through. But if she can come in through here now against Chookagian, because, I mean, let's face it, anybody that Chookagian faces that isn't Valentina, she wins relatively handily. I mean, she has close fights, don't get me wrong. But I think it's a good fight because Chookagian can finally earn another title fight if she wins this one. That'd be like 4 or 5 in a row. But if Fiorot wins in Paris, boom, right into a title fight and potential huge marketing person for that region. Her and Cyril Gane, those are the 2 fighters from Paris. It's a big deal for her.
Can I make another proclamation? I made a proclamation that Costa Rockhold will not happen. My proclamation is that Katlyn Chookagian's going to win by split decision.
Oh, I can already see it on the below average bet slip come September.
There will be no episode on September 4th if that happens.
Fair.
The show is done. I'm just
done.
I quit.
Done.
No offense to Katlyn Chookagian. She's great. But I'm just, what I mean by that, if she were to get another decision that I don't feel she quite deserves, I thought she won against Hebus, but I'm talking from last summer. She, who'd she beat?
Oh, with Viviane
Araújo.
Yeah.
Viviane clearly won that fight in my opinion, but whatever. Chookagian just will not let go of the number 1
never
in this division.
Yeah.
So Manon's like the last hope right now for a short while. So we'll see what happens. Great fights though, for sure.
Yes.
Now, Dominic, we do have some more fights to talk about for this Saturday's card. A card that, I'm going to be honest, when I went to really dig deep yesterday, today, looking at the betting side of things, I was kind of dragging my feet.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I mean I was just not really looking forward to it. I was kind of not interested in the betting on this card. I wasn't interested in a lot of these fights. The best fight, in my opinion, is the co-main event, which we're about to talk about. But outside of that, the main event didn't really tickle me. Nothing else really. There was some fighters I was excited to see, but the fights themselves, I was like, But you dig deep enough, you find some gold, and that's kind of what we've done here. I think that we do have some good fights to look forward to. That co-main event is the best fight on the card.
100%.
Dan Ige taking on Movsar Evloev. A big step up for Evloev. And might I say, I'm shocked. I'm a little shocked that he's such a heavy favorite. I recognize he's undefeated in the UFC. He's looked fantastic. But Dan Ige's battle-tested. He's a war-proven veteran at this point. He's been in headlining spots before. Evloev has mostly played it safe through his UFC career. I'm going to go on a limb and kind of say that. He's won all decisions in his UFC career. But I think he's going to have to really take out Dan Ige to win this fight. That's truly how I feel.
Yeah, I think this is an amazing fight. It's great matchmaking. Ige's on a skid. At the end of the day, he's lost 2 in a row at 3 of his last 4. But it's all against top guys, man. This guy fights everybody. Ever since he won on the Contender, he just got thrown in to the wolves. And he's done well for the most part, right? But the biggest ones he's lost. But for Movsar, this is welcome to the top 15. We're throwing you with Dan Ige because the biggest win Movsar has was Hakeem Dawodu. That was a pretty fun fight, if I remember. So at least closely contested, I should say. But Evloev does feel like a very legitimate contender, a very legitimate prospect at 145 pounds. There's a lot of talent here, but not too many young up and comers. He's kind of leading the charge, him and Sadiq Youssef and those types of guys. But yeah, it's a big test. I like this a lot. Ige's well rounded, but like Evloev's grappling and the way in which he does it is obviously the biggest strength in this fight.
It feels like that's the best skill across both guys.
Yeah, so it's like, how's Ige going to respond? Because we haven't really seen him with that. I mean, really the biggest test for him grappling-wise, funny enough, was against the Korean Zombie, and it didn't go well.
That doesn't make it very promising, in my opinion, that his
exactly.
defense is going to hold up.
So, I mean, we shall see if Movzar can deliver here, get a top 10 win, make it, I mean, what, he's 5-0 in the UFC, 15-0 overall. This guy's undefeated for a reason. We used to throw that phrase around all the time. I'm going to say it again here, undefeated for a reason. I'm very much looking forward to it. Noah hit the nail on the head. It's the best fight on the card. It's the most important fight on the card, implication-wise.
Yeah, I completely agree. I am a believer in Movzar. It's been a while since we've seen him. Was his last fight UFC 257, the Conor Poirier rematch?
I got
That was him and Hakeem, I'm pretty sure, was on that card.
I'm finding it
so
right now.
That's a long time off if that's the case. And, you know...
He fought at 263, June 12th last year, but it's still a year. It was Conor and then that card. Hasn't fought since.
It's a layoff, but not as long as I was thinking.
Yeah. Ige's active though, man.
I think Dan Ige on the feet can actually make this a fight.
Yeah.
To me, it's when Movzar implements the wrestling, which should come pretty quickly.
yeah.
I do think that Dan Ige is in for some trouble if he hasn't really made the improvements coming off of even the Korean Zombie, maybe an underrated, well-rounded skill set, but he got taken down at ease pretty much in his TKZ. And maybe there was a bit of, like, not expecting it. I don't know. I'm not super confident if this fight, if Evloev is smart and really goes for getting this fight to the ground, I think it's a long night for Dan. But I do think there's a chance that Evloev doesn't quite play it that way. And because, again, he does tend to kind of coast a little bit early on in his fights. That's how Hakeem Dawodu had a lot of success periods in the fight, and I think Dan Ige could definitely have some success on the feet. But
well, let me pose one more question real quick, just because of the way you were breaking down with Movzar there. How much, in your eyes, being that right, he's 5-0 in the UFC, they are all via decision. I think there's even a split or two sprinkled in there. How much would him getting a finish over a guy like Dan Ige say to you? Him making into the top 10?
It would say a lot. Now, I try not to harp too much on that, like the finish rate, because all in all, you can look at a performance and you can see if a guy's like...
Oh, yeah, he could dominate him for 3 rounds, and it says just as much.
If he were to knock out Dan Ige with the first punch he threw in 5-10 seconds, that would be miraculous, amazing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it doesn't say as much as if he dominates this fight with his grappling for 3 rounds.
Right.
I would like to see a little bit more from him here. I care less about the finish and more about seeing just something, whether it's submission skills or if he shows some evolution on the feet. I just want to see a little more out of him. But I still am a believer in him. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah.
Next up, Damon Jackson is back. He was, he's been looking for a fight for a while.
Dude, he's in fun-ass fights.
He just fought not too long ago, but he was clamoring to be the day of replacement, and I forget what fight it was, but it was the Cerrone-Lozon fight.
Yes.
He was calling Dana, trying to be the day of replacement. He's here fighting Daniel Argueta, who is making his debut. He just fought for LFA about a month ago, so he's kind of jumping at an opportunity here. He's undefeated, which Dominic, you threw around that saying, undefeated for a reason. But if he's a heavy favorite, Damon Jackson, that is. This is, in my opinion, I think the UFC is doing him a bit of a disservice with the matchmaking. Now, I know this wasn't his original matchup, but even his original matchup, I was kind of like, come on, guys. Like, Damon Jackson, to me, is ready to be tested with the top 15.
Yeah, it does feel that way. This guy's always in fun scraps. He finishes fights. He's in scrappy fights. His only loss was to...
I think he's 20-4. Like,
he's
his
20-4.
Very solid.
Dude, his only loss was a knockout, or his only loss in the UFC, I should say, was to Ilia Topuria, and it was a knockout.
You want to know something crazy that I might get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure what GC said on the betting set portion of the MMA Hour today was the two the two most recent losses, I guess, because I guess in his last 11 fights, he's 9-2 or something like that.
Yep.
Those two losses are to Ilya Tuporia and then someone who's
Hopefully Kubelaev.
Oh, Belaev. Okay.
Yeah.
He didn't name him in the segment, but he said PFL undefeated fighter, I think.
Yeah.
Their combined records since that fight is like 31-0-1.
Yeah. They're great competition.
Which means Damon Jackson's a stud. I mean,
yes,
he is a stud.
He is a stud. I mean, he's 4-1 in the UFC, right? I mean, and the only loss being to Topuria, one of the biggest prospects in the entire company. Damon Jackson is legitimate. For what it's worth, Daniel was on tough last year, but he lost to Ricky Tercios, right? But he's from LFA. He's undefeated as an actual pro. Take that exhibition out of there. Anybody that wins an LFA, I think, is a legitimate talent, but it's an uphill battle here for Damon Jackson. He has exploded to a minus 575 favorite. I think that's the story right there.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was on tough. There you go, Dominic doing the extra research there. Maybe it's because he actually watched it. But
True.
You know.
Hey, War Ricky, man. Come on.
Yeah, War Ricky. Next up, some fun flyweight action. Jeff Molina, a guy who I think is starting to creep on me and Dom's radars a little bit if our betting slip is anything to go off of.
Yeah.
He is taking on Zhalgas Zamugalov. I always mess up that last name. Zamugalov, I believe is how it's said. Zhalgas looking to really, he's really holding on by a thread here. He's 1-3 in the UFC.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really tell the story. He is coming off of getting bamboozled by Manel Kopp, Manel Cave, that was like the best performance Manel's had in his UFC tenure this far.
Yeah.
But like his debut, I think he lost. It was a split decision or something like that to who fought Sean O'Malley in his last fight? That guy who.
Oh, Holly and Paiva?
Holly and Paiva. Thank you. Dominic always has the names in his brain. Holly and Paiva. Is that really how I've said his name before? I feel like I said Raleigh and like a dumb Yankee. Raleigh and Paiva. But I believe, even though Paiva's a good fighter, but if you go back and watch that fight, not sure if he really should have got the scorecards in his favor there.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, even though Zamugalov might be in a tough spot because he is 1-3 in the UFC, I don't think that necessarily resembles the talent. But he is going up against Jeff Molina, who is proving each time out to get better. He's putting on fun fights and just has a very well-rounded skill set. I think it's going to be a great fight.
I think Jeff Molina is legitimate talent, man, at this flyweight division. He's got crisp boxing, crisp hands. He's just so well-rounded. And like you said, for Zumagulov, is that how you say it? Wait.
Gavagul.
I'll just say Zhalgas. Zhalgas.
Were you saying Gubagava? What the hell's going on?
For Zhalgas, back against the wall, what are you going to do? Jeff Molina, by the way, I think if he wins this, he should be top 15 next. I think it's a good fight. Although the division is shallow.
We love the flyweights, but I was about to say, how many fights can he take outside the top
before getting it? Yeah.
But I agree with you for what it's worth. Zhalgas was ranked not too long ago. He's 1-3 in the UFC now.
I got to make one more point while we're on this before we move on to the last fight.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know this until I'm looking at it right now, so I just want to point out to people, Zhalgas went 5 rounds with 2 guys outside of the UFC and won both fights. It was against Tyson Nam and Tagir Ulanbekov people. So, says something.
He definitely came in with some pedigree if you are kind of in the know for that market, but it just seems like it's not quite put it all together in the UFC. But I still think that even if he loses here, I think there still could be something worth having on your roster. I think he's a UFC level talent. It's just the wins aren't coming together, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
Last one, Aaron Blanchfield is opening the card.
Bullshit.
What is going on here?
This should be like the main card opener, prelim headliner.
Aaron Blanchfield, she's taking on JJ Aldrich, coming off a solid win in her own right. Your thoughts on Aaron Blanchfield making her return here against JJ Aldrich?
She's legit, right? I talk about this next wave of women's flyweights all the time, and she's one of them. She's one of them looking to crack into that top 15. I've got to say, Noah, again, taking notes. I was a bit caught off guard. JJ Aldrich, not on a lot of people's radars, but she's pretty good, man. She's 7-3 in the UFC. She's won 3 in a row. But it just feels like Erin Blanchfield, 23 years old, super young, right? Green, if you will. But she's legit. She's so strong. She's so well-rounded. Her grappling is so good. And this is someone that, being so young, is going to get better and better and better every single fight. I'm not saying JJ's out of this. I'm not ruling her out. I don't think it's going to be like just some dismantling. Yeah. But it's pretty close because I think Blanchfield is just that good.
Yeah, I mean, Erin Blanchfield, look at her was it her last fight? Was that
to do what she did against Miranda Maverick said a lot.
That performance against Miranda Maverick, she outclassed Miranda.
Dominated.
Maverick,
couldn't
who
believe
has essentially dominated everybody else she's fought.
Yeah.
JJ Aldrich is a good fighter, but it is a kind of fighter that is a stepping stone for someone like Erin Blanchfield.
It feels that way.
I truly feel that way, but for what it's worth, Aldrich, very good wrestling, very powerful for this division. Yeah. So it could make it interesting, but you gotta lean Blanchfield if you go off of just how she's looked.
Yeah.
So that's it for the card, Dom. Now we're going to get into a little betting. I want to remind everyone that you can find these odds as they are updating minute by minute through DraftKings Sportsbook. That's where all these bets are being made through. That's where all these odds come from. So shout out to DraftKings. Also want to remind everyone that we are not professionals. We are literally newbies at this.
This is we've only done this for 5 months,
Yeah, so do not take betting advice from us. This is not meant to be put out there as betting advice. It is simply just two guys that wanted to start betting on sports, fighting, and we're doing it. And as you can see by our success rate, we're new at it. So just wanted to throw that out there. If anybody was dumb enough to take our picks before, just stop.
Fair.
Anyways, so here we are again. Unit sizes on fleek.
Yes, they're a little bit everywhere. Huh?
So I'll explain mine. I'll actually go down and explain mine singles, and then I'll kick it to you. I am messing around with the unit sizes. I may or may not have increased what my unit size is, but look, we don't unit. There's no shame on here.
Yes.
So we don't. That's why we do the units, because that's all that matters. Is
It's true.
That's really what matters.
How many units positive are we?
Yes, exactly. So it's allowing me to play around a little bit more with it, which is what I'm happy about. As far as the single unit plays, Jeff Molina was yours. You had 1 and I had a half, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the ones that I put a full unit on was Botello Silva fight does go to distance. Women's MMA, it's over 50% of the time going to distance. I feel like it's kind of a misogynistic way to bet on these fights. But if you just go down their resumes, both capable of some fun fights. I mean, I remember Silva fighting for the Dana White Contender Series last season.
Yep.
And she was actually in a pretty fun fight, finished the fight. So it could be a little risky. Minus 150, you just typically don't get those kind of odds for two women that are, Botello has been in the UFC for a long time, had a pretty iffy run. This is Silva's debut.
Yeah.
I just see this fight going to full distance, and at minus 150, you typically don't get it at that cheap for women's MMA. So it was something worth putting a unit on, in my opinion. And I also put a unit on Ode Osborne to win the money line, minus 180. He is his opponent. I forget his name, but he's 4-3 in his MMA career. Now, it doesn't exactly tell the full story.
Yeah.
He's been in the UFC actually for multiple fights, so he's been fighting despite the lack of experience on his professional record. But Ode Osborne is just someone that I think he's got a breakout in him.
That's the guy you want to see put it together.
I do believe that he has a breakout in him. He could be one of those guys. I'm not necessarily he would have been a good answer for when I was talking about unranked fighters that you could think of. That he's the kind of guy I could see just going on a big run and becoming a flyweight contender. But As it stands, he's big for the flyweight division. He's very talented. I think here having the experience advantage, which is something he hasn't had the advantage in most of his fights, I think it'll play big for him.
Yeah.
So those are my single units. I did also put a half unit on Jeff Molina money line at minus 180. You know, again, I do respect Zambragailov's talent. I just think Jeff Molina's legit, and when you consider the run he's on, I don't see Zalgas being able to slow him down. I worry a little bit about Zalgas also being on that he is on the brink of potentially being cut.
Yeah.
You know, what's that going to do to his mental state? Jeff Molina, riding high, 2-0 in UFC, both great performances so far. So I did put a half unit on that. I also put a half unit on Trezano Almeida to go to distance. Bit of a risky one here, minus 165. Both high action fighters.
Yeah.
But both guys that are so durable that I just don't really see this fight. I could see it being a great fight. But I have a hard time seeing either one of these guys getting stopped. Almeida, by the way, UFC debut. He was on the Contender Series, lost an awesome fight with Daniel Zellhuber. Trezano's been around for a while. He's coming off a great performance in his last outing. So I think this has the makings of a great fight.
Yeah.
But ultimately one that I think goes the distance at 0.5. And my gosh, another one. But I forgot I added this one. 0.75
last minute
units.
decision.
Yeah, right before we started recording, Dominic was throwing some stats at me. So if this one doesn't hit, I'm going to blame him.
Yeah, right. I'll pay you the 0.75.
It's minus 200, which is literally as far as I can stretch it before I'm putting this in a parlay.
Yeah.
Favret Dinov and Michailidis. I have this fight not going the distance. Just look, guys. I mean, these two guys. That's all they do is finish fights. So
or get finished.
Yes, exactly. So that kind of makes me feel a little bit more comfortable with this one. That you kind of have the two ways to go about it.
Exactly.
Both guys' chins haven't held up exactly well in their last few fights, especially. So I was only able to put 0.75 units. Truthfully, my balance had gone empty, and for some reason my card wouldn't let me put more money on my account. So
donate link in the bio.
Yeah, that's why it was 0.75 units instead of 1 or something. I am pretty confident in this one, but
yes.
Yeah, this one feels like a lock. Knock on wood.
Yeah, please do.
So Dominic, talk about your singles.
Yeah, so obviously I did. Mine were all just single units. Jeff Molina, we've already talked about it. We broke down the fight a little bit. I just believe in this guy. I think he's a really legitimate talent for this division right now. I think he's got crisp hands and just a well-rounded skill set that I think gets the job done against a guy in Zalgas who has fought good competition, but at the end of the day, he's 1-3 in the UFC. Molina's got the momentum. I like that side. Johnny Munoz money line. This is the lone plus money bet on this week's bet slip, which is interesting. And this was the last one that I added onto my bet slip. This is one I went back and forth on for quite some time. But Johnny is a guy that is a jiu-jitsu ace, right? A black belt. Very good. 11-1 record, only one loss. He's going up against Tony Gravely. Now, Tony spoiled a lot of people's bet slips when he fought last. He was an underdog going to that, if I'm not mistaken, and won relatively decisively, a unanimous decision. He's well-rounded. He has put it together lately in his career. He's 22-7, but there's just a part of me that really like Johnny Munoz in here. He's the younger guy. I feel like he's just the more athletic, explosive, more paths to victory style of fighter. And when I mentioned that BJJ black belt, he's got 9 wins out of his 11 via submission. Tony Gravely has 5 of his 7 losses via sub. Now, I didn't stretch it as far as going Munoz by submission, but if you're feeling ballsy out there, it's worth a sprinkle. Maybe let us know if you do that. But I like Munoz at plus 110. I'm willing to take that risk.
I like the logic to stick with the money line play because it's plus money already. Let's not get too. That's how we lose, Dom. That's why
we had the week off, right? This is my get right week.
This is the get right week. I like it.
So, also, I love Ode Osborne money line. I almost put that in. That was next on the sheet. I just thought I'd mention that to know. I like that he played that. I did go with Renat. I'm going to fuck this last name up.
The K's silent, so, okay.
The H is Favret Dinov.
Yeah. So it's really not that hard. You just take the K and the H out. It's not that hard.
Renat Favret Dinov. by finish, -110. Listen, Noah put money down on the fight to end via finish. Well, I'm going a step further and taking Renat to get that win. He's 18-2. He's coming in from UAE Warriors. That's a very much respected regional promotion out there. He's actually the guy that just knocked out Eric Spicely. I think we even mentioned it on this show.
I'm pretty sure we did.
And for Michaelitis, he welcomed Alex Pereira into the UFC, got knocked out. And it's just, while he's a good talent, he's 13-5. It's not a pretty record. All 5 of those losses have been via finish. I just feel like Renat is going to get the job done in his UFC debut. And then my last single was Osborne and Adeshev to not go the distance. Now, this one, a little risky, because this was, does it go the distance at -105 or do not go the distance at -125? So either way, you're getting good odds. And both these guys are coming off decisions in their last fight. But I just have a feeling that someone is going to make a statement in this one. And hopefully it's Ode Osborne for Noah's sake, and then it's going to be great for the bet slip. But either way, I just, for some reason, am envisioning a finish to happen. Both guys do get finishes, don't get me wrong. So I was just willing to take that risk at -125. I think the winner of that fight will have a statement be made, and I think it comes decisively. So that's why I sprinkled that one on as that single.
Nice. As for the parlays, I went pretty big.
2 weeks in a row.
2 units on this parlay. Did I have 2 units on my last parlay?
On the one that we don't want to discuss anymore, yes.
Yeah. The one that, well, I won't. I'm not going to make Dom relive that.
Get right week.
Yeah, exactly. -110. I did not remember that I put 2 units on that. So that does not, all of a sudden, it's all get right week.
He's having flashbacks.
Yeah, I am right now. So, okay, I do like this parlay.
I do too.
Too often I like to pretty the parlays up. I like to do. I find myself only wanting to do only money line plays or only, these prop bets on these parlays. And I'm like, what am I doing that for?
Yeah.
Do the smart bets, okay?
Yeah.
Quit being stupid.
I feel that.
For me, I'm like, I feel very confident in Aaron Blanchfield and Damon Jackson. I already spoke about both of them, kind of why I like them a lot. And then Felice Herrig and Karolina Kowalkiewicz is on this card, which is kind of a decent bout for 2 women that have seen their better days, but still kicking, still hanging around. Yeah. But I don't see either one of them finishing this fight. I think this fight goes to the distance. I felt very confident out of all the fights on this card that this would be the one that would go to distance. So let's remember this if you have to take a clip out here for when it inevitably, Carolina lands a 1-punch knockout.
Well, listen, if it makes you feel any better, this is the second time these two have fought. First one was a split decision for Carolina. So if that makes you feel better, they've already went the distance once.
It does. So. Will my streak of parlays remain cursed? Only time will tell. -110, 2 units. Who's riding with me?
I like it, Noah. Clearly, I'm doing it. I mean, basically 2 legs of it because I went with a 3-leg money line this week, -127. Couldn't quite get it to plus odds, but I'll take it. These were the 3 biggest favorites on the card. Aaron Blanchfield actually has closed since these bets were placed, but she was -475 personally there. Damon Jackson's like a -575, and then Movzar was all the way up +400. I think he's back down to around 380 right now, but regardless, those are 3 huge favorites. Blanchfield, we already discussed. I highly believe in her skill set. Damon Jackson, I almost wanted to do a single bet to him for Damon Jackson to win by finish. I think there's great value there. And if you want to take it a step further, I think he can even get a submission win, but I didn't want to risk it. And then for Movzar, it's funny. I brought this up to Noah off recording. I said, on Sunday, I was talking to him. I said, what do you say? Like half unit sprinkled on Danny Ige. He's like a +380. Then I put Evloev in my parlay here, so I completely did a 180 there. I think he is that legit of a talent. I think this could be like a coming out party, quote unquote, to get that big win, to crack into the top 10. That's the 3-leg money line.
Yeah, well said, well said. Let us know what plays you guys are going to be making this weekend, what sportsbook you're using. If you hit it big, send us the receipts, and maybe we'll show them off on the show. Who knows?
Yeah, that's right.
So, Dominic, you know how we close the show around here nowadays. It's closing statements. Anything and everything, MMA, non-MMA, to get off our chest, we do so right here before we send you guys off to the weekend. So, Dominic, your closing statements for this Thursday.
Yeah, I had a couple topics in my head, Noah, that I was debating on what I wanted to do first. So I'm going to start with the one that hits close to the heart, and it's because even though I can't even talk about reviewing the album, maybe that'll come on a different closing statement. But Noah talked about his guy. I'm blanking on the name. Tell him the name one more time.
Zach Bryan.
Zach Bryan had a double album come out a couple weeks ago, 34 songs on it. Noah mentioned that on one of our most recent episodes. My favorite artist, Austin Richard Post, otherwise known as Post Malone, is dropping his long-awaited fourth studio album for the first time in 2.5 years. I couldn't be more excited. I love this guy. I think he's a great human being, an inspiration, if you will. I love his music. It kind of just speaks to me. A lot of people say that music kind of brings them through tough times and whatnot. This is that type of artist for me. I'm very much looking forward to this album. Obviously, this is coming out on Thursday. The album comes out on Friday, so give it a listen this weekend. You know I will be. And eventually I'll have an album review maybe for you in one of these closing statements, but I'm looking forward to it.
Well said, Dominic.
Oh, wait. Sorry. I had a question and I forgot it.
Oh.
I wanted to ask because of that, who's y'all's favorite music artist? Let us know.
Yeah, there you go. I'd love to hear I feel like we'd get like quite a lot of different answers, you know.
Yeah.
My answer to that, I wouldn't say Zach Bryan's my favorite. He's probably my favorite in country music. Does that make him my favorite overall at this point? Man, The Weeknd, though, I have a long history with.
Like your all-time, that's him. Yeah,
like The Weeknd, I just go so far back with him and his whole career, and even though like some of his newer music isn't exactly like I don't love it as much as I did like his first couple albums. That guy, it's always going to be a special connection to The Weeknd for me.
Yeah.
It's just got me through a lot of the good times and the bad, you know.
That's damn right.
Yeah. So I actually have nothing for today's closing statement. So I guess that kind of was my closing statement. And yeah,
that
let
works.
us know your favorite band, artist, whatever it might be down below. But Dominic, you're Dominic.
I am, yeah.
And I'm Noah.
This is true.
And me and you are the Below Average Joes.
Oh, chills.
And we'll see you Monday.
See ya.